Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your guy, B. Period. Man, thank y'all for joining me again, man. This has been a good ride, man. I mean, we're not into the millions of views yet, but I appreciate everybody, man, who's tuning in. Man, continue to like and subscribe to the channel as you watch the channel. We truly appreciate it. And comment, man. Tell me what y'all think, man. Tell me what y'all think. I got some people commenting to me personally about some of these episodes. I got an earful the other day, but but man, please comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think of what we're saying. You may agree sometimes, you may disagree sometimes, but that's the whole part of having these conversations, is to get to a productive place in conversation. But let's get to today's episode. Today's episode, I've been watching in the news, and there's been a lot of conversation about the Lebron James I Promise School. The Lebron James I Promise School. And so for those of you who aren't really paying attention to what's happening with LeBron James School down there in Akron, Ohio, or up there in Akron, Ohio, it is under scrutiny right now from people because of the test scores that the children are getting on the Ohio State test. So for those that don't know, LeBron James has what he calls an I Promise school in Akron, Ohio. And so the school was created in partnership with the public school system there. And what he does, from what I can tell, I did watch the documentary that he made about the school. What he does is he supplies additional resources for the school above and beyond what the public school is already going to do. In addition to that, they also offer services to the families of the children who attend the school. Additional services, outside of what, again, the normal school system would offer through his family foundation. And so, just kind of a little bit more about background on the school. The way that they established the students there is they looked at the bottom 25% of performing kids in the school system in Akron. And they did a lottery and picked 240 kids, I believe, is what they started with in 3rd and 4th grade. And then with the hope of catching them, because a lot of people establish for education, if you can catch a 3rd grader, get them working at the level that they're supposed to, then it bodes really well for them continuing on and doing well in middle school, high school, and then of course, and beyond. And so it seems like the goal of the school was to try and catch those 3rd and 4th graders in that bottom 25%. And so I have a little bit of background in education myself, so from a educational standpoint, what that says to me is he basically took in a random set of kids who were more than likely level 1s. Maybe they had a level 2 in there or something like that. But for the most part, level 1s. And took them in an effort to take them from wherever they were to getting them up to the standard that they should be for their particular grade level. And so the conversation that's being had now is we are about 5 years in, I believe. I think that was 2018, 2019 they started. So about 5 years in, and they have found that his students are all, the article said all the students failed the 8th grade state test in math. No, I think it's called math. That they all failed the state test. And so the question is, everybody's wondering, well, is this now mean that the school was a failure? And then by extension, of course, because LeBron James is, some would argue, he is one of the most hated athletes, at least for what they consider to be his social justice stances. His social justice stances. Can't even talk today, y'all. But, and so, a lot of people criticize him because of what he's doing in social justice, different areas. I remember a few years ago, he had the word, the N word scribed across his house in Los Angeles, and he made some statements that a lot of people disagreed with. And then, of course, he was heavily, had a lot to say about the whole George Floyd incident in 2020 and so forth. So he gets a lot of flack for that. And so when some people are looking at this data of these students and they're going, all of them have failed, they're going, see, here this guy, all this money, and here he thinks he can fix the school system, and he's failing all of these kids in his particular I Promise school. And so that's been the conversation that I've been watching over the last week. And so I wanted to comment on that for a couple of reasons. I think this conversation is too simple-minded to say that LeBron James failed. Because number one, LeBron James doesn't teach in the school. He has, Akron, for whatever the standards are in Ohio, all the teachers there had to pass those standards. And so for all intents and purposes, they're qualified teachers who have met everything that the state of Ohio requires of a teacher to be in a classroom. So from a school standpoint, they've done everything that they were supposed to do. And so when you dig a little bit deeper into the story, while the students aren't passing the 8th grade math test, what they have done is the students have made significant gains, according to the articles, from where they started to where they are now. And so from an educational standpoint, I'm looking at that and I say, to me, that means that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I understand why you might argue that, well, if they're not passing the state test, then they're not being successful. But what the deeper layer to this is, number one, if they were level 1 students when they came in, that means all of the students were at a minimum 1 to 2 years, some of them perhaps 3 or 4 years behind the level that they should have been when they came into school at 3rd and 4th grade. So there's your first challenge. Because your goal, or in some people's minds anyway, the goal is to take a student at the beginning of the school year and then get them up to where they're supposed to be at the end of the school year. But anybody who's taught students on any level knows that's just, that may be a goal, but that's not the reality. The reality is, if they're a 3rd grader and they're starting at kindergarten, which according to the documentary, they did have students who were in 3rd grade but were reading at a kindergarten level. So if they were able to get them from the kindergarten level to the 1st grade by the time they got to the end of that school year, that would have been amazing. Let alone, getting them up to 3rd grade level by the end of the school year, that would be the holy grail of education if they did that. Just to get them from kindergarten to 1st grade would be amazing. And so when I think about this criticism that they're leveling on LeBron James, I had to say something because I'm thinking to myself, man, this is unwarranted. Y'all not even being serious about this conversation about the type of student that he brought in. And then on top of that, it's a deeper level that, and I'm not saying LeBron James doesn't know this because I've never talked to LeBron James, of course. But one thing you learn in the school system is that while the classroom is key, and everything begins with the classroom, the second level to this is what is happening at home. And I don't care. I know at his school, what they do to kind of curb some of this stuff is they go to school from 9 to 5 every day. So they've extended the school day to help accommodate what that kid is experiencing. And so, that's great. That's cool. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, at 5 o'clock, he still has to go home. And so when it comes to education, one of the things that people don't like to talk about is that home life, that parental influence on the educational process. And that, to me, plays a bigger role than what's happening in school. Because it's the standards that are set at home which are ultimately going to dictate what the outcome of those students. And watching the documentary, they show and highlight some of the students, and the documentary was made in 2020. So a lot of these kids in the documentary are some of the kids who are taking that 8th grade exam. And so when you look at some of the kids and the home life of some of the kids, there was one particular kid that they highlighted in the documentary that had 6 siblings, I believe they said. Mother had 7 children. And I don't know how old the mother was, but if she was 30, 35, I don't even think she was 35. And she didn't look 35 to me in the documentary. But maybe she was in her early to mid 30s. 7 kids already. Now, I'm not saying that she doesn't take care of her kids, because in the documentary, I mean, she seems to be doing her best. But I am saying it's a challenge for anybody to take care of 7 kids and to ensure that all 7 kids are getting everything they need to be successful. And so while that particular kid, he was in the documentary, they said he was a 3rd grader that was in the kindergarten level. So again, they're doing all that they can at school. And then on top of that, what's going on at the house? 7 kids at home? That's a struggle for anybody. And this is not to knock her in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, and it's going to be hard to give 7 kids everything they need to be successful all at the same time. And I think in the documentary it talked about her working 2 jobs too. It's a struggle. That's a struggle for anybody. That'd be a struggle for 2 parents, let alone 1. And so, education, and I keep sharing, I talked about this in my first video. It's the family. So as much as he's doing for that school, which is amazing, that's awesome, right? He's trying to give those kids as much extra support as they can get from a school perspective. And that's awesome. But that's just the school. When are we going to have serious conversations about family and the influence of family on education? Because the truth is, the school system can help you drink water. They can take you to the lake. They can let you dip your toes in it. If you're truly going to swim, you need your mama, you need your daddy, or whatever your foundational family system is going to be in order to be successful. And to me, that's the one thing I want to see change. Why don't we talk about family? As good as LeBron James is, to me, his biggest accomplishment is the fact that he made sure his kids didn't grow up without having a family. He made sure that. He married his high school sweetheart, and they've been married without, at least from what we know from the outside looking in, without any infidelity issues, without any real marital issues that were going to cause potential separation. And all of his kids seem to be thriving at whatever things that they choose to be active in. He's built a great family, which is something he didn't have as a kid. To my knowledge, it was his mom and him. Dad wasn't around like that. And that, to me, is the reason why his kids are as successful as they are. And so when I think about his school, he brought in the bottom 25%. I bet you, from the documentary, most of those kids were black. Bet you 50% of them, 60% of them are from single-parent homes. The challenge I see is having that familiar structure to really push them to that next level. Because it's hard for a single mom to do that all by herself. To me, the biggest highlight that he should be focused on, that we should be focused on, is family and building strong families. Changing the culture of what we do when those kids come home. Every day should be some homework. Every day. The teacher didn't tell me no homework to do. Well, then go back and review everything y'all did in class today. Until you know it, like till you know the back of your hand. Because that's what's going to take our kids to the next level. That's what's going to take these kids who aren't successful on these state exams getting to a place where they can be successful. It's not going to be the school environment. It's only a piece to the puzzle. And in my opinion, it's a small piece. The bigger piece is what's being said at home. What's being allowed at home after school. What's being done during the summer before the kids come back. There's your success. Those are those things that we should be talking about. And so the failure I see is not in the school, is in highlighting the importance of family systems. Let's get focused on that. Let's get focused on changing what we do at home, changing the expectations at home, so that our kids can really start to thrive and do better. For those kids, they're doing their best. They're making gains. They said almost 100% of the kids had gains from where they started to where they are now. That's amazing. Because trust me, most kids don't make gains throughout the school year as much as you think. And it ain't the teacher's fault. So if they're doing that, then they're doing the best that they can. Looking at that documentary, which it was a good documentary to be honest with you, but the stuff that they're dealing with, they took the bottom 25%. And then they didn't even cut out for behavior, according to that documentary. Because in the documentary, you got kids throwing tantrums every day. Walking out classrooms, slamming doors. So they're doing their best to take the kids that the school system don't want. Let's be honest. And they get them to at least learn. No, they're not passing that state test, but hey, they're gonna keep working with them, and that's what I loved about what they're doing. And clearly, these people are dedicated. I have nothing bad to say about what I saw in that documentary, and that was a documentary. So the documentary, they edited that. So if they're showing you this in the documentary, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. And they're working with it. They're keeping those kids and doing their best, which is amazing. And so I have nothing bad to say about this school. And I challenge anybody who had anything negative to say about that school, y'all tripping. Because for those teachers to get all of those kids to have gains under the circumstances that some of those kids are going through, that's a stand-up job. And they should be commended. So congratulations, teachers, principals at the I Promise School. I know they're giving y'all flack right now, and you guys had to put out a statement to say, the pandemic. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the pandemic being the excuse for everybody, but they're doing it here in Florida too, so I understand. But for me personally, I see no fault in those teachers at that school. To me, they are doing the best they can. And if they got 99% gains, they're doing better than most. So I say congratulations to them. That's where I'm going to end today, man. I am done for the day. I am your guy, B period, of course. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you got any other thoughts that you want to talk to me about as it relates to the video, please share. Share in the comment section, man. Other than that, I'm out. B period, man.